Let's go back to Cape Town now, where the Pro-Palestine Quds Day march is currently taking place. Now, the annual march there is to show solidarity with Palestinians, and it takes place on the last Friday of the month of Ramadan. Let's now get the latest with our reporter, Vanessa Poonah. Vanessa, a very good afternoon to you once again. What is the latest there? And talk to us about some of the organizers of this march.
Yes, good afternoon to you. I spoke to you earlier on from Hanover Street. That, of course, was the start of the march. I can tell you that we are now on the corner of Darling as well as Adley Street in the city centre, and hundreds of protesters have already passed me. I don't know whether you can see behind me quite a number, or we're just bringing up the rear as we speak. Earlier on, I spoke to Wahida Kasim from the Qibla movement. She's also here at the moment. But let me just tell you, I also have in front of me the memorandum that the organisers will be reading from, and if I can just make a few, quote a few sentences here. They're basically calling on South Africa, that's of course the government of South Africa, and I quote, to intensify efforts to secure an end to the genocide and not just a ceasefire, and also they're calling for the government to sever all economic, military and diplomatic ties with Israel. Let me bring in here again Wahida Kasim. So you spoke to me earlier on, Wahida, and I asked you at the time whether this march, it has been happening for over 40 years on this last day of Ramadan, Friday of Ramadan, whether this march has a special significance. Will you just reiterate the position of the organisers of this march today?
Thank you. So the late Imam Khomeini, may Allah be pleased with him, had the foresight and the wisdom to recognize this particular day in the month of Ramadan as being a significant day. Well, every day is significant, but particularly this particular day, because the Ramadan is now coming to an end, a month of high intensity training to in fact intensify our commitment to the liberation of oppressed people all over the world. The leader of the Qibla movement, the late Imam Ahmed Kassim, may Allah be pleased with him, also had the foresight to answer that very call and to call upon the people in South Africa to join that call for solidarity. This year, it is even more significant because the call now is this. How do I even put it?
You say there's a humanitarian crisis that is unfolding day by day in Gaza specifically. I heard you saying that just now, and I see that you are quite emotional about this issue. And we've seen, once again, people from all walks of life, from all sectors of society coming out today. I mean, the march is just literally passed into Adley Street, from which these hundreds of people will then end up at Parliament. So when you talk about what is currently happening in Gaza, in Palestine at the moment, you're saying that you've got quite a list that you're calling on the South African government to implement. Just some of those demands that you are making at this time.
Yes, if I may, I think just because I'm some of the demands that we are making, which you've already read, that the citizens of this democratic South Africa demand of our government to intensify their efforts to secure an end to the genocide and not just to call for a ceasefire, and to sever all economic, military and diplomatic ties with the terrorist state of Israel immediately. And this includes the nullification of all military contracts entered into even by the previous South African government. That there also be an economic trade and financial embargo on all Zionist goods and services. We are also asking that our government secures the Palestinians financially in terms of their trade also and economic interests, and that it be maintained, protected and developed by the South African government and the private sector.
So when we talk about the humanitarian aid, and I mean we see the visuals coming out of Gaza, we do know that there is a huge need for those corridors, for aid to reach people that are suffering at the moment. You're also calling on South Africans to make their mark, I suppose, in terms of alleviating some of the struggles of the Palestinian people.
We know that by having a ceasefire, it not only gives the opportunity for the Palestinians to take a breather, to recoup, to get the aid that they so desperately need, but it's also an opportunity for the terrorist state of Israel to recoup its its soldiers
Okay.
to carry on with their massacre.
Okay.
So the ceasefire is not an option. We want an end to the genocide.
All right. Wahida, I'm going to let you go for just a second. Sir, you also have participated in this march today, if you will. In terms of your reason for participating in this Quds March, it happens every year at this time. You are saying that you have a special affinity with what's happening in Gaza at the moment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just represent 1 in a million of the people around the world who are standing in solidarity with Palestine. And Zionism, together with Israel, is a project. And sadly, and very, very, very truly, your project is about to end. You can do what you want to do to the people of Gaza. They are not moving out of Gaza. And I appealed to the world out there, if you can do it, visit Al-Aqsa Masjid for the liberation of the people of Palestine. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So, of course, thank you very much. These protesters are now making to Parliament, and we'll join up with them in a short while. Of course, you would have seen people emotional about this issue, and then saying that they are expecting to hand over, if not handing over, but then making their demands heard to this government of South Africa in terms of specific interventions they would like on this over 40th installment of the annual Quds March in Cape Town.